Welcome to the Mangina Dialogues. I am your host, Greg Alprin, and who's already laughing. It's hysterical watching him laugh. I didn't even say anything, and he's already cracking up. Jay Durena, live from Toronto, Canada, in tears already. Good son.
The Mangina Dialogues is so funny, man. That's so fucking funny. I know you've probably said it hundreds of times, so it's like
way too many times.
So it doesn't hit you. I've read it. I was like, oh, Mangina Dialogues. That's so funny. But hearing you say it out loud, I was like, man, fuck, I can't keep a straight face with that.
You know what's really like funny? Like our old theme song. That's actually a new theme song I had done because the show's kind of in its new place right now. Our old theme song actually has a video that goes along with it, which is done by puppets. Right on. And there's full lyrics.
That's
right.
Amazing.
So a complete set of lyrics, like totally, like legit, like hip hop lyrics.
Yeah.
And like there's lyrics in there that I have no idea what they mean, and people like who listen to the song like while it's playing are like, "Did they say full swung titty in your intro music?" And I'm like, "Yeah." These two fucking puppets said full swung titty. And everyone's like, "What does that mean?" I have no idea. But I hired these guys to write a theme song. That's what they came up with. It's a comedy show. It works.
It sounds good, man. It sounds good. That's what's important.
It all works in the with the name. I mean, it's crazy. Everyone asks me where the name came from. And at this point I am thoroughly embarrassed, right? Not even by that name, because my Instagram name kind of took on the life of its own years ago when I first started. And I can't get away from it. And it's the Gregalicious, right?
Love it.
So I kind of own it. Like at this point, I have no choice. And I took a poll on Instagram like 2 or 3 months ago. I'm like, all right, I'm getting ready to dump the name. Do I dump it or do I keep it? And overwhelmingly, like it was like 1,000 or 1,200 like people like responded to this stupid poll. And overwhelmingly it was, you're not seriously thinking about getting rid of the Gregalicious, right? And I'm like, dude, I do a podcast once a week at least, and I have to start off by saying, welcome to the Mangina Dialogues. I'm your host, the Gregalicious.
That's incredible. That's great, man. That is like such a perfect trademark moment that sticks in people's heads. Like, you gotta keep that. That goes on a shirt, man. The Gregalicious from the Mangina Dialogues.
It's on a shirt. It's on shirts.
Oh, beautiful.
Shirts. I have so much merch that's sitting in a drawer in my house that it's like, it's just ridiculous. And I apologize in advance. Anyway, man, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Things are flowing up here in a certain sense. Some things are really good. Like our cases are dropping in Corona wise. Some things are bad. Like we just are going into another lockdown. I've done like virtual stand up here and there, but I haven't done real stand up in a long time. So I'm just edging to get on stage again. We were able to book some shows out of town because there's some like surrounding cities in Ontario that are in green zone. We have like a color coded system over here. So we were able to book some shows, I think when was it now? I want to say it was like the beginning of March. And then before that, it was November. So it's been like a long multi-month long gaps in between performing.
Yeah. I have a bunch of friends up in Toronto and the surrounding area. One of them lives in London, I think she lives in.
Yeah.
And she just told me again, like it's back into full lockdown, like she can't even work.
Like, yeah. That's it's been going in and out of that. And it's kind of frustrating because like, obviously we want to stem this and stop it, but it's like, we've been kind of doing this like in out thing. And it's like, man, if we just stayed in the whole time we've been in without these breaks, would we have beat it already? Yeah. Because we wouldn't be constantly spiking the numbers by remingling. I don't know. A lot of people are frustrated, but I think it's just like people just don't want to be inside this long. Like regardless of whether or not we did the other version of staying inside for one long period of time rather than going in and out, people would still be just as frustrated, I think.
Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, it's pretty wild down here because we're outside New York City.
Yeah.
And I'm in Connecticut, right? So Connecticut has been pretty good the entire time, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously taking away March and April of last year, since middle of May, 2020, Connecticut's been kind of open, right?
Yeah.
So like first they opened up some inside restaurants and you could do some things, and then June everything kind of opened up. So we definitely have had it better than even our neighboring states of New Jersey and New York City, right? So like
Mhm.
New York City last week, just on Friday, they were able to do indoor comedy shows and
Oh my
anything. So
God.
basically, like indoor dining opened up a couple weeks ago, and now indoor live events with entertainment, music, comedy, theater, whatever, can open up with limited capacity, like 30%, right? But it still allows you to do something.
It allows you to do something, and it feels great, man.
Yeah,
Like having those few moments where I could get on stage again, were like it was. I had kind of my writing had slowed down, and a lot of things kind of halted in certain areas of being creative. And it's because if you like stand up is such an expressive art form where you have to be getting on stage to know if your jokes are working.
sure,
Like you can have a general understanding if things are funny, but you could like write a song by yourself
sure.
and know if that song is good or bad. You with stand up, you have to get in front of the crowd. So doing a couple shows when we went outside of the city, I like immediately all these ideas of jokes I can write start flowing in, and I have this excitement to get on stage, this excitement to practice this new material, and it was there and gone so quickly, but it felt so nice to have it back.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I don't do stand up myself, but I go to a lot of shows, and we book shows out here in Connecticut, and I think I mentioned before, like in partnership with Stand Up New York, one of the oldest
Mhm.
clubs in New York City, and they opened up Friday night, so I went into the opening, grand reopening, grand reopening of the club, and it was only performing to 40 people for two shows, right? Normally the
Mhm.
club holds 140 people or something,
Mhm.
and on a Friday night, it would always be crowded, tourists, locals. So to 40 people, like it still looked and felt so good to be inside in New York City, like
Yeah.
watching and guys performing comedy. And literally there were people like teared up. Like I'm
Yeah.
not kidding. Like John, who's, got caught up with something else, who's my co-host. He's the booker at Stand Up New York and the chief of staff. And he went up on stage first to just welcome the crowd, and like you could tell how like emotional it was that
Yeah.
after over a year, that finally now, like in New York City, like one of the meccas of comedy in the world, can get back to business, right? It was
Yeah.
such a good feeling to be there and then watch the comedians who just could not wait to get up on stage. And like Sherrod Small came up and he's like, I haven't been on stage in months, so like
Yeah.
this is going to be a ride, like buckle in. Right.
Just yeah,
And
just to go on up and let it all out. There's like this like backlog of material you want to do, and like so much of like my first kind of like stepping back on stage. I think in November 2020, I maybe did some shows in the summer when there was the outdoor gigs, but it was like a 3 month gap or
yeah,
so of like not doing anything. That like I was like I don't even really want to do bits. I was hosting my first gig back, and I was like I just want to riff. I just want to talk to the audience, and I just want to say stuff, and I just kind of want to be insane in front of people for a little
yeah.
bit and enjoy that feeling again.
Yeah, it was wild. They did Stand Up New York produced almost 500 shows over the summer last summer
Yeah.
in parks, right?
Yeah.
Parks. They're doing shows in subways. I mean, still, they did a show on a subway Saturday night, even though the club was open, just for kicks, like
Yeah. Yeah.
on a subway car. It's insane. And the first show I went to in the park over the summer in Central Park, my old co-host was talking to someone, maybe Mark Norman or one of the other guys who was on the bill, and he was all nervous about doing his material in the park, like with a shitty subwoofer, like speaker and a crappy mic, and to people in lounge chairs with a baby birthday party going on 20 feet behind, right? And he said something to him like, he's like, dude, the stakes couldn't be lower.
Yeah. You got nothing to lose,
Like
man.
you got
Nothing to
nothing to
lose.
lose. Just go out and let it rip. Like chances are no one's even going to hear you. They're going to just courtesy laugh
Yeah.
and just have some fun. And it wound up being an awesome time, because it's true. Certainly the stakes were not very high, but just to be out doing stuff,
Felt
giving,
great.
and for the club to be giving, 10 comedians more a day, all these chances to be up and working out material when you really had no other choice, and paying them to do it.
Yeah.
Like it was such an awesome experience for those guys.
And all those shows coming back, like these little bits and pieces of shows we've done, I've definitely found that audiences have been extremely forgiving. Like
Oh,
they
sure.
are so happy just to be out and doing something. And there's no competition in terms of entertainment right now. Like for some reason, I know in Toronto, when stand-up came back, live music still wasn't allowed. I
Right.
don't know what that is. Maybe because it's like people tend to dance or something when there's live music. I don't know what the rules are, but there's no, like, when it comes to entertainment now, stand-up's one of the only things you can do. And people have been locked up for so long. They're like, thank God this guy's telling me jokes, because I just want that.
It's really funny. We because Connecticut was not on a full lockdown and we could still do live performances of only stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
We ran a contest in December, right? So we did a 3-week long contest. It was, I think, about 64 comedians were entered in the contest.
Mhm.
Local like restaurant we did it at, and then we held the finals at a theater that we're now promoting and producing shows at, which is normally a big theater, holds 700 people. Like, because of COVID, it only can hold 100 people. Now it can hold 160. So we put on we put on sale the finals, right, of all these local comedians, which was 12 local comedians judged by 2 pro comics.
Yeah.
I didn't look at the ticket sales for like 2 weeks. I go look at the ticket sales. It was sold out.
Yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
I'm like, what? I'm like, this event is sold out. Like, it's a bunch of local comics, granted in a beautiful theater, right? That people are used to going to see, really great shows, comedy bands, whatever it may be. And it's sold out. And I'm like, holy shit, there's that much of a frenzy for people to go back into a real venue.
Yeah.
Like, forget the restaurant we were doing. This is a real venue. People just wanted to go to a place.
Oh, 100%. We're going to have I think this summer is going to be a hot time for live entertainment. Like, a bunch of people are going to be very hungry to go out and see things. And I mean, most of it's most likely going to be outdoor, but it's like whatever you can get going. But who knows? Like, vaccination is coming pretty quick. So, I mean, for you guys, it's coming pretty quick. We're kind of on hold right now.
Why is it taking so long up in Canada?
We don't know for sure. We have this is my theory. Is that there was, like, before, when Trump was still in office, it seemed like we were going to get vaccinated really fast. Then Biden came in and he was like, Trump didn't have a vaccination plan. I'm putting a vaccination plan in place. And then all of a sudden we weren't getting vaccines and you guys were. So I think these American companies were selling vaccines and Biden went, absolutely not. We're vaccinating our people first. Right. I don't like. Who am I? I'm an investigative journalist? No, I'm some dumb comic who makes TikTok videos. I don't know. This is my conspiracy theory. But it seemed like that happened. You guys are all supposed to be vaccinated by like May. And I think once you guys are good, then we can start to get your runoff.
Yeah, I heard. I don't think that that's a crazy theory, right? I did hear that they are now shipping a bunch of vaccines to Canada because there's, I guess, too much that's allotted to the US that we just flat out aren't going to need. So they're shipping them off, I guess, all around the world. But I know Canada was getting a whole bunch, which I don't know. That just seems weird because most of those companies aren't even American companies. Right?
Like I said, man, I don't know. I'm going spinning wheels in my head.
Yeah.
From what I've heard on our side of the news was that they're like, just really the rollout and the management of it has been really poor. They're like, we were still at like vaccination for like 70 plus. And apparently there was like some places in Hamilton where they only had 13% reservation. And it's like, well, if you lower the number and allow other people to come get vaccinated, more people are going to show up. So it's almost like they just haven't been paying attention to it. I don't know what's going wrong, but it seems like they're just not doing something right.
I got one a couple weeks ago. And I had just hit, like, it was 40 and over. So I was able to do it because I'm over 40. And then like a week ago, they were like, all right, anybody that wants a vaccine can get a vaccine starting last week. Yeah. So now everyone that's 16 and over in Connecticut, at least, and I think most states now, can sign up and get a vaccine. And they estimate by May 1st that everyone that wants one will have one.
Beautiful.
And I had COVID back in January, and it didn't really suck that much. I was kind of okay. I wasn't asymptomatic, but I had mild symptoms. It's actually worse for me now than it was then. Like the after effects and shit, like I can't work out anymore. Like I can't really exert myself without losing my wind very quickly.
Yeah.
But hopefully that comes back. But I got vaccinated 2 weeks ago and got crazy sick the next day. like
Oh, really?
like the flu. Like I felt
Yeah.
like I had the flu. And I'm like, oh, fucking A, like this is worse than when I had COVID. Like I
Yeah.
didn't feel this bad. And I'm like, God damn it. And my doctor was like, you probably shouldn't get the vaccine for a couple more weeks because you're not really past your 90 days of recovery from COVID. And of course, I play a doctor on TV, so I know more than they do.
Of course.
And I'm like, fuck that. I got an appointment. I'm going for it. Right. What do you know? Like, fuck
Yeah.
this shit. Like, I'm going to take my chances. So I go get the vaccine, find that day, next day, wake up, flu.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Super
oh,
simple.
fuck. So, yeah, of course, I big fucking pussy, laid in bed all day and had food brought to me like I'm some kind of, you know, king.
Yeah, but that's the way
Asshole.
to do it, man.
Of
Like you're some
course. Like, I
sort of
milked it.
sultan.
I milked it. Like,
Yeah.
definitely milked it. No question about it. Mom called me 10 times. How are you doing? I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sick. What can you do
Yeah.
for me? So I go to sleep thinking, all right, I'm in for like 3 days of having the flu,
Yeah.
strap in. Woke up Friday morning the next day, totally fine, like nothing had happened.
Beautiful.
And I'm like, I'm like, that's beautiful. Then
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck was in that shot?
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows what they
Like,
juiced you
what
up
is
with?
in that shot? Like, how could it make me so sick one day and then the next day, like nothing?
Hey, man, I'm not a
Like,
scientist. Fucking ask no questions, hear no lies, baby. Just give me the juice.
I'm not a scientist. I'm a conspiracy theorist. Maybe I don't know what's going on.
The thing is, I don't know what's in most of the things I put in my body. I put
Of
in
course.
way more horrible things than fucking a vaccine in my body.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want these things. Oh, there's obviously going to be some sort of side effects. Some people are experiencing different things that happen to them.
Sure.
I know there was the whole Bell's palsy thing. People are like getting paralysis in one side of the face. Apparently, all those cases, they went back to normal afterwards.
Right.
But I'm like, yeah, I just want this whole thing to move forward so I can get vaccinated, and then we can go. The sooner we can get back to normal life, the better, baby.
Yeah. It's funny you said that about I put way more worse things in my body than a vaccine.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's I went to a CBD store a couple weeks ago, and this this like hippie girl starts explaining to me this gummy product that they have that's CBD, but it's also like hallucinogenic, right? And I'm
Love
like, and I'm like, wait a second, like both of those things can't be true. Like
Yeah.
it can't be CBD, but also be mind altering. Like,
Yeah.
and she's like, well, and then she starts explaining to me the like why, right? And obviously some CBD has some level of THC in it.
For sure.
And she starts explaining, she's like, well, it just has like 10 times that amount, but it's still considered CBD. I'm like, I don't get it. Right. Like, I don't
You're
get
like,
it.
you're just giving me weed, dude.
I don't want to get it. I'm like, just, so she gave me a sample. She took some, she's like, just take it, go home, try it. I'm like, okay. And as I'm walking out, she comes running out of the store and she's like, you made me a little nervous. You might want to try just half.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, listen, girl, I spent many years on tour with the Grateful Dead. Whatever's in this gummy bear is nothing compared to the shit that I took in 1993.
I love it. Love it. By the way, that's cool as shit that you went on tour with the Grateful Dead. That's awesome.
I'm very lucky. Like, I'm old enough to have seen Jerry multiple times and spent bunches of summers and springs on tour with the Dead. And it was a tremendous time.
Dude, that is so cool. That is so cool.
Are you you a Dead fan?
I'm honestly, when it comes to music, I'm kind of musically illiterate. There's no like bands or musicians or anything I follow. When it comes to entertainment, I've like ever since I was a kid, video games is the thing I'm like so entrenched in constantly. But I obviously know of the Grateful Dead. It's like one of the greatest rock bands of all time, and like paved the way for LSD for so many people.
Including me. Yeah, my mom didn't hear that. But absolutely, yeah. I mean, obviously the godfathers of like the jam band scene, which I hate that thing, but I mean it really is, they really did bring out the experimental side of music, right? They took like that jazz blues experimental stuff and brought it into rock really in a very psychedelic way, of course.
And
Let's talk.
anything that messes around with psychedelics, I'm always on board with. That acid, mushrooms. Speaking, yeah, of putting what I don't know what in my body. Have a buddy who gave me like crushed up. He's like, they're mushrooms. They're two different types of mushrooms. I blended them. I put them in pills. He's like, take one and see how you feel. He's like, it's a microdose. And I was like, yeah, sure. Just gave me a bunch. And I'm taking these, no clue what's in them. And I'm like, yeah, great, man. It's great. I'm seeing the walls are breathing. Yeah, I'm having a great time, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I spent a spring tour on with the Grateful Dead in, I don't know, maybe 1990, 89. I'm old. And I was in Atlanta, right? And the one day that I wasn't on anything and not messed up, like totally sober, I don't think I drank that day. I was walking through the parking lot and I saw this girl freaking out, like clearly in an acid meltdown.
Yeah.
Right. It could have been mushrooms, but one of the two, like an absolute meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you're been there, you can recognize that a mile away, and I'm like, holy shit, that girl is like freaking out. And I'm like kind of walking that way to see what's going on. Not that I'm going to offer help, but at least just medically okay.
Yeah.
Right. And between two cars walks, you're going to think I'm crazy, Jesus. Right.
Okay, explain.
I mean, like Jesus, like what you picture in Jesus, that's what I saw in front of me.
Right on.
And I'm like, and I was sober. I'm like, wow, this is insane. And I've never seen that guy on tour before. I've seen a lot of guys that resemble Jesus, coming out of the crazy buses and vans and stuff, but I've never seen this guy. And I'm like, holy shit, that's Jesus. And he walks up to the girl, puts his hand on her head. That's it. And I was right there, just puts his hand on her head, stares at her, doesn't say a word, walks away. That girl walked away totally fine.
That's gay.
Right?
That's nuts. And you saw this all live, like
totally live. Nobody believes me. They're like, you were definitely on drugs.
And you're like, no, I was stone cold sober this day. This was the one day.
And they're like, you did not see Jesus. I'm like, exactly what you said. I was totally sober. And if it wasn't Jesus, it was his brother James. I don't know. but somewhere, somehow, someone took care of that girl. It was like 9 feet tall. It was Jesus. Until I'm dead, I will go down with I saw Jesus save some girl's life in between two parked cars at the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia, at a Grateful Dead concert.
Maybe you did. I love the idea that Jesus is a Grateful Dead fan too. He's like, of course. He's just coming back to Earth to check out a concert. He's like, okay, I'll fix it real quick. It's like, no more miracles for today.
I'm done. It's sugar magnolia time for me. You're watching another great episode of the Mangina Dialogues, brought to you by Corona Premier, now available on draft. Hey man, let's talk about some of your comedy stuff. Like, you're raised in Canada, right?
Yeah. So I grew up in BC. I lived in BC until I was like 18. And then I started traveling around. I lived in Mexico for a little while. I was like scuba diving instructor out there. And then when I was actually living out there, I started doing stand-up with like a small group of expats who do stand-up for tourists. Right. I kind of like, my brother started doing it while he was in BC, and I like got into it. And then did it for about a year out there. And I was like, you know what? I love this. If I want to take it seriously, I need to go to somewhere where it's taken seriously. So I moved to Toronto. I would have gone to like New York or LA, but I obviously get it. You can't go unless you have a visa or something. Sure. So moved to Toronto, and then ever since then have just been like grinding on the scene, trying to make it happen.
And what's the scene like in the comedy scene like in Toronto?
I mean, pre-COVID, beautiful. It's a place where you could get up several times a night, easily get up 3-4 times a night. Like some of those shows are little rinky-dink open mics that are only for comedians, and like only comedians watching. But there was tons of great rooms. I mean, there was the Corner Comedy Club was like a small club that sit like 35 people. So it's like really packed on a weekend. It's just like the most intimate space. It's a place where I would take my jokes to know if they live or die. Yeah. Like it was impossible to lie to the audience in that setting, right, and to get an ungenuine response. And so like if a joke passed there on the weekend, I was like, okay, it's rock solid, goes into the act. Yep. And then there was like the underground, and the underground was like this place pulled out of time. Speak of Grateful Dead, it was like a basement from like the 60s or 70s where that had like all this like psychedelic weed art all over the room, and it was a vapor lounge, so people could come in there and smoke weed and hang out. And the there's like this weird level. Vapor lounges. I don't know if you guys have vapor lounges in New York.
Not so much in. I'm sure there's some around in New York. There were some out here by where I live, and they all always seem to get shut down.
Yeah. There was at least four in the like Toronto, like downtown Toronto, maybe like including Etobicoke four, but there most of them or all of them had comedy shows at one point or another. There was like the Hot Box, which was the classic one, and they all varied in like how good they were because there was like Vapor Central, which had comedy shows, but everyone who went to that room was a little bit on the younger side, maybe like early 20s, and they smoke weed like they're smoking weed to win. Like they get so fucking high that they just become sort of brain dead, and it's hard to perform for them. The underground was this beautiful space where you had an older audience who would like smoke responsibly and like have a couple drinks, and they just chilled out in this and they were the most like giving fun audience where you could riff and try stuff, and I felt the most like the least pressure and the most free and the most authentic on that stage.
Right.
There's just like some beautiful rooms that hopefully come back in one way or another, and then there's established clubs like Yuck Yuck's Absolute Comedy Bar was like a space that just had comedy going all the time. It's a wonderful scene out here.
And how long have you been doing it?
I'm 8 years in now. Well, with one COVID year. So let's say we're still at 7.
Like a dog year. Counts.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of Zoom shows in these virtual shows?
So I've been trying to get on the Zoom shows like as much as possible. They're a little bit of a different vibe, of course. I find that audiences laugh at different points, but I've been trying to do what I can to keep my stuff fresh.
Right.
That's like one of the reasons why I've been putting up more content on TikTok is because it's just like that is something I can put my content out on now, get an immediate response, and still like develop my comedic voice.
Yeah, your TikTok's friggin' hysterical.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I literally went down a rabbit hole the other day when Rachel sent me all your stuff, and I'm like watching them. And I'm not an avid TikTok person, right? Yeah. But when someone shows me something funny on TikTok, I'll just spend hours like just scrolling through it. And yours are so funny, man. And you know what I like most about them? I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but they're just easy to watch.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
It's like, and they're quick, and there's different visuals in there. Like it's just so well done. Like the style is great, and the comedy and the bits are just really, really sharp.
I just wanted to like my whole vision for like what I wanted this to do. I was like, I'm getting into this platform. I want the content that I make to be like quick and easy to create because I'm already spinning plates in so many different areas. You're writing stand up, you're like you've got your podcast. Everyone's got things that they're already working on. So it's like, how can I translate my sense of humor into this platform with a certain level of ease? And that's what I wanted to do, was like just it to be authentically my sense of humor, and I can put it through whatever lens I want it to. That's why like elements of TikTok, like the stitches where you're doing reactions to another video, play well into like my comedic ability, which is just look at it, comment on it, fire out some jokes about it.
Right. How did you develop the TikTok following different from like Instagram, right? Because on TikTok you have over 2 million followers.
Yeah.
Right. And then on Instagram, it's obviously way lower than that. Yeah. Like, did you make a conscious effort to focus more on TikTok than Instagram or Twitter or whatever, but it's between Instagram and TikTok? Or did you find it easier to develop an audience on TikTok than you did on Instagram?
So I definitely found it easier to develop the audience. I've been working like consistently on TikTok for a much shorter period of time. And I think like for what my brand is, TikTok is more suited towards me. Instagram, like in its foundation, is imagery. Like, of course, it starts off with pictures, but imagery in like a deeper sense, where it's like people are putting an image forward of what they want to represent themselves as.
Sure.
And there's where TikTok has sort of stripped away that element, and it's much more authentic. When things are falsified or things are kind of there for clicks, it's not taken as well on TikTok, and people just want to see honest version of something. It doesn't matter what it is, your life, your sense of humor. You like on any other platform compared to anything else, you'll see the most girls without makeup on TikTok compared to any other platform, because it's like people just being like, this is me, I'm a human being, this is my life, and this is my perspective. In terms of creating content and getting in front of people, TikTok's algorithm works like how do I explain this? Like it's the social version of YouTube, where YouTube is search engine optimization.
Yeah.
So what you get with YouTube, it's like they're Google. So they're using keywords. Your video goes viral based on things like people watching it all the way through, people clicking on a video afterwards. The words that you're using are people typing those words a lot. It's all created through infrastructure like that, where TikTok's algorithm is based off the social element, people watching it and engaging with it and sharing it. And how many people do that then causes it to spread and spread and spread. And each video is judged on an authentic level like that to a certain extent. Obviously,
Right.
like my account got some community guideline violations because I like to walk the line a little bit in the content I put out. So then that will devalue my content a little bit, and I'll start getting less views. Then you have to be a good boy for a little bit to get those views back. But that element of TikTok allowed me to connect to people in a very authentic way, where I was just like, this is my sense of humor. I'm sending you jokes. And if people are like, I think it's funny, they'll rewatch it, share it, and spread it around in a way that doesn't really happen with YouTube.
Right. So how did you go from, a Toronto-based community, which obviously you are, right, to TikTok, and then to like having one of the premier, if not the premier agencies represent you? Like, did the TikTok thing lead you to them, or did you have them before you had like, how did that whole thing get together?
Honestly, this was like everything has happened so fast. Like, it's kind of it's happening fast now, but when I really look at the process, I've been doing stand-up for 8 years, right?
Yep.
So it has been this entire like grind of doing stand-up. And I remember points at like when I was like 6 years in, I went from telling jokes that the audience would respond to and I understood they would laugh at, to understanding how to translate my sense of humor on stage and tell jokes that were more authentic to myself. And I remember the first time I wrote like 10 minutes in that like voice, I guess you would call it. It's such a cheesy term. But I did it and then I couldn't do it again. And I was like struggling to get back to that mentality. So getting to that point over the next few years, then once TikTok and these other platforms came around, because I also work for like a YouTube channel and I do reactions on there and stuff. So understanding then through doing TikTok and YouTube and all these other things, now I have this machine, which is my sense of humor, which I spent years developing. I can take something, put it through that machine, and it comes out as jokes.
Right.
And so then TikTok came around, or me putting out content on TikTok seriously came around, and I just started putting these videos and putting things through this machine. So that whole process took like 8 years to get here. But then once it started to take on TikTok, it was like, I started posting seriously in December 2020, and now we're just at the beginning of April, and it just moved super quickly. And then people are contacting me, agents, all this stuff. And I'm like trying to keep up with what's going on, because you don't want to lose the flame. But at the same time, I'm like, I have no idea, because Canada, especially our entertainment industry, is so much like more stifled than what you have going on in the States. There's way less opportunity. There are people who are much funnier and have much more credits and much more talented, have much more skills than I do, who aren't getting looked at all, just because Canada, everything kind of gets neutered over here, and you don't get a bunch of writing jobs, and there isn't as much money to go around. Like, well, a perfect example is I've had 3 different managers reach out from America to try and represent me. And obviously that's how we got connected. And I've had 0 people in Canada reach out to me.
Wow.
Which is like, I'm in the country and people right over the border can see the potential in what I can be.
Yeah.
And they're willing to invest in me, but no one here has any idea of what I'm doing, really.
Well, I mean, listen, man, if you had to fall into the lap of someone, you fell into the lap of a pretty good company to be represented by.
No, I've been so happy, and even working with Rachel has been so far incredible. Like it's a great vibe, honest understanding, and a real person. She says, "Dude," and I'm like this is just someone I vibe with.
Yeah, right. Yeah, she's great. Like I can tell you, like I've dealt with tons of agencies and managers and agents, and once I got connected with her, I've only been connected to her a little while. She's super supportive. She's easy to talk to. She's totally real, and I'm sure that she'll tell it to you like it is. Whether it's me or you or a club that you're or whatever it might be, and sometimes you don't get the answers you want, but you have to respect if
You're
the
gonna get the
person's coming
truth.
from, but because when you know that they're shooting it to you straight,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And that's the most important thing with a manager, agent, anyone representing you, is that you trust that they're shooting it to you straight. And half the time they're going to tell you shit you don't want to hear, and half the time they're going to tell you shit you do want to hear.
Yeah.
You know,
But yeah, to go back to your question, it's like it's been so hard to grab a hold of all of this. I'm trying to just keep things moving forward and open doors that I feel like need to be opened. Like I've started a Twitch channel now because
sure,
like I told you, love video games. If I look at someone like Joe Rogan, who's like, he was a fighter years before he did entertainment or anything like that, and he was able to like mix those two worlds together,
yeah,
fighting and entertainment. And it's like I listened to a daily video game podcast that talks about video game news. That's how much of a nerd I am in this space. So it's like it makes sense for me to try and reach into that area.
oh sure,
So looking at things, saying yes to things, saying no to certain things, because like now it's wild how much people just start asking you for anything. Like it's
sure,
like, can you promote my GoFundMe? Can you do this? Do you want to come on this thing? I'm writing a movie. I got a TV show idea. Can you look at the script? And just people just start firing stuff at you.
yeah,
And you're kind of like, I'm like, yes, no, I don't know.
yeah,
So people like Rachel have helped me like put my feet down and understand where I need to move
oh
and
totally.
how to keep this moving in a positive direction.
Yeah, definitely. When stuff starts to spin, you definitely have to have that person there who can, do the things you may not want to do, which a lot of times is say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
You may, obviously you seem like a super, awesome dude, engaging, like probably have a hard time saying no to things when people say, hey, can you help me with this? Like you just naturally want to say yes, but you can't say yes to everything. And you need someone to say no for you. And agents have no problem saying no. Management, like
Absolutely.
no problem. And, the good ones will certainly guide you into what you should say yes to and what you should say no to,
And
so that's
that's
awesome.
that's really like what you want in your corner. And I'm learning those skills as I move along, but I'm really trying to not get too distracted
Yep.
and understand like things will move at the pace that they need to move at. And even things like getting an American visa now, that process is probably going to be about a year or maybe a little less than that. But knowing, just keep focusing on the fundamentals now, keep the TikTok going, keep writing, like working in stand up in areas where I can, so I can keep my progression as like a performer and an artist and everything moving forward. So the product keeps getting good, because one of the biggest things I want to focus on is like stand up to me always needs to be the core. For one,
Sure.
it's the reason I got into entertainment in the first place. It's the thing I love the most. And I feel like it's the thing that is the most important because that is the product.
Yeah.
Like the content I make on TikTok, I love it. And I believe it is a true representation of my sense of humor. But at the end of the day, it's beholden to a platform that could kick me off at any time.
Yeah.
And the same as if you're on YouTube or any of these other things. If you make a product that no one else can make, if you're like the Grateful Dead or Kanye West or some artist, when they release an album, everyone goes to check out that album because only they can create that product. If
Sure.
you can create that product, then that makes you irreplaceable to a certain extent. So as long as I keep my stand up at its core, the thing that I'm driving everyone to, then that makes it like maybe the most important part and the safest and most secure part of my career.
Oh, totally. So, I mean, that's a great perspective to have, by the way.
Thank you.
Very, very important to have a good perspective on your own career.
Mhm.
So, before we wrap, I think we need to talk about the other best name out there. At least it's going to come up in this 45-minute interview.
Yes.
Is your debut comedy album, Tales from My Butthole.
Love it. Love it. Yes.
So to everyone listening, that's a real thing. That's not a joke, although it is a comedy album. So one, like, how'd you come up with the name?
First I was gonna call it Tuxedo Shirt. That was my idea for it, because I was like, it's a good representation of my sense of humor. It's like I have a very highbrow, lowbrow. I like to create that contrast in the jokes that I make. Like if you can take a concept like I don't know, like fettuccine alfredo and make it very regal and royal. That's,
Right.
to me, that's funny. It's
Yeah.
fettuccine alfredo. It's a low level pasta. So that's what I was going to call the album first. But when after I did the recording, I was sitting down and I was like, I can come up with something better than that. I was like, something that when people say it, they'll remember it. It's catchy. It sticks with them. So I just threw some words around in my head for a little bit. Tales from my butthole is what stuck. I was like, and it's still, I feel like it's still translated what you're getting out of the album, which is 100%
Well,
Tales from
it,
my butthole.
I tell you, it's a name that definitely sticks
Yeah. Yeah.
for lots of reasons. Um, like, did did anyone try to steer you away from that title?
Absolutely not. No one, most of my friends are comedians, so they were all very on board with Tales from my
Yeah, no,
butthole.
I imagine comedians would.
Yeah.
I mean, I would. I wouldn't be like, hey, man, you should think twice about that album title. I'd be like, go for it, man. Fuck that. That album cover art's going to be insane.
Oh yeah. There's actually, if you look at the album cover art, it's like a psychedelic picture of my face. And
Right.
then if you look in the eyeballs, there's buttholes in each one of the eyeballs.
Oh,
There's
man.
like a sphincter, which
You're
is
you're a sick dude, which is great. Uh,
oh,
Definitely, I understand the just popping the mushroom pills.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a big fan of psychedelics. I think I definitely have a joke about mushrooms. If I'm thinking now, I can't remember if it actually made it onto the album. But doing the album was so fun. It was the most stressed I've ever been performing comedy, and my back hurt from being that tense.
Yeah, I'm
Just
sure.
this like feeling of like you got to get it all in one night.
Yep.
But it was a great combination of like everything I've worked from, and like all the like different levels of my sense of humor that kind of have developed through my comedy so far. And it was so happy to see it all be put together, and it made me even more excited for the next thing I'm going to create, because like you start developing as a stand-up so much more, and you can put all that material kind of to bed for a bit and just be like, we're starting from scratch, work on new stuff. What are the new ideas in my mind?
Yeah, for sure. So what is coming up for you, right? So the album is out. People should go download it and listen to it and buy it everywhere you can buy it and support. Um, how are you going to spend the balance of the year once hopefully we all come out of this COVID, lockdown?
So the main thing I'm going to be doing is like booking shows like mad. I have a few other comics who I've go on tour on. We've done annual tours for the last 2 years or 3 years. And we're going to try and just book the summer solid with like as many outdoor gigs as we can, golf courses, bars, whatever, anywhere who's got a thing they want to put on. We're going to put on a show everywhere. And that's what I want the bulk of my summer to be, to develop as much as I can to get like a good solid, like maybe 30 to 40 minutes of just like rock solid content,
Right.
content jokes.
Right. And it's all going to be in Canada, or you're going to come down to the US?
All going to be in Canada, because especially now, like crossing the border before to get opportunities is something that a risk that a lot of Canadian comedians take, because as I mentioned before, the opportunities here are slim and you get ignored. A lot of very funny people get ignored, and it can be discouraging. So you go to the States to try and make those opportunities happen. But now that things are kind of coming to me from the States, I'm going to take those risks probably not at all until I can legally go down there and do shows. Because
Right.
if I did get caught, it's like a 10-year ban or something. And then
Oh shit.
all the opportunities are gone. Yeah, it can be a serious like restriction. And that's career ending.
Wow. I didn't realize that. I thought you could just come down like on vacation for 2 weeks and perform.
You can, and like the thing is, like technically it's legal to go down and perform if you're not making any money. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, sure.
But if the thing with Border Patrol is like, even if they can't prove that you're making money or that you made money, if there's a show that you were on, it has your name on the poster and there was a ticket link to the poster, like, well, this show is making money, you were on the show, and you go, oh, they didn't pay me. That's the border sometimes doesn't care about that at all. I know there was who was it? Kathleen Madigan. It was a Canadian comic. She got filmed at like the Laugh Factory or something, and I think she got a 10-year ban because they saw that when she was crossing back over the border. And it's like it's so small now. And now like I have over 2 million followers on TikTok. If I go to do a show somewhere, there's a chance that someone who knows me sees me and films me on stage.
Oh, sure.
And then that goes up. I can't get in. So anything going down to the States right now, I'm definitely going to I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. It's gonna be like doors are opening where they should open. Opportunities can come, and you can get like a quick sponsor visa for certain
Sure,
gigs,
sure.
and I'll get those opportunities that come. And before you know it, I'll have my full visa, and I'll be living down there.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Really, that it's awesome, and it's a great. I mean, it sounds like obviously you don't have much of a choice, but you also have a good plan.
Yeah.
Right. So listen, dude, I really appreciate you taking the time to chill with me and shoot the shit and make fun of my name, and it's great. Um, and anything, like, what's all your socials?
Everything. I'm Che Durena on everything. That's CheDurena on every platform, except for Twitch and YouTube. It's Little Dinky News because I do all that with a buddy of mine who's also a comedian. He actually used to be my roommate, and we stream. We're not amazing at video games, but we are good enough. We're like we're pretty good, but it's more just us talking shit the entire time. That is the draw of it. It's almost like a podcast, and it's guys playing video games ridiculously.
Sounds like if I tried to play some video games, exactly what would happen.
It's great. It's a great time.
Unless you have Pong or Tecmo Bowl 1989 or 90.
We could always dig something like that up. I love the classics. I love them.
You know, did they Nintendo put out that system a couple years ago that were all the throwback games like in one little box?
Yep.
And I had that Nintendo 64 when I was in college.
Yeah.
And I only had one game, and it was Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah, on the old NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah, and you know it was a Bo Jackson year, and like that was the only thing that you ran. Like everyone wanted the Raiders to get Bo Jackson.
Yeah,
and my buddy from college still has it in his.
No way, that's probably worth some cash.
The one game and the original NES. I was like, can I have it, please? He's like, no, man. Well, you play it all the time. It still works.
It still works.
Yeah, it still works.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
Holy, he's taking care of that.
30 years later, it's pretty wild.
That is.
All right, dude. Thanks a lot, man. Wish you absolutely the best of luck. Hopefully, we'll see you down here in the States sometime soon. If not, next time I get up to Toronto, which who the hell knows when that'll be. Used to be like 4 times a year. I'll definitely look you up.
Absolutely, man. If you head up here, let me know. I'll show you all the spots. I know where all the great spots in the city are.
I will take you up on it, man.
Right on. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks, bro.